Good morning. It is 8:40 UTC. Just looking at Bitcoin, and yeah, from yesterday we kind of got the kind of step off move that we got like to see, kind of a bounce into a very strong downside, obviously from over the weekend. But the big thing here is that we are getting people starting to short again. Something we talked about yesterday. It's like, how do we change the price action to where we get people to trap shorts? Very simple. If you're just grinding down and nuking it, now we're actually seeing some pretty decent upside drive. Quite a bit of local liquidity shorts being built around 56.3, which is nice to see. So we got some potential here, especially even on some local levels for retests and continuation. We really don't start looking to target the lows from structure until we see failures, probably around the lows around 53K. So what we saw late last evening, about what was that 7:15 UTC. But for right now, we've got nice stacks of short liquidity building above as people are trying to short, expecting the downside to continue. For right now, there's a couple bounce plays. Obviously, there's like liquidity gaps here at 54K, which would be a nice test of this structure, and then another one down at like 53K, where we start to see some more kind of liquidity gaps areas. So until we start losing this local structure, we have some priority up technically on lower time frames. The higher time frames obviously still pretty wrecked, but we can really start regaining that very quickly by getting closer to 60K. Plus, there's some untested levels up here with the weekly open. Looking at some of the long short data coming in, also, we're seeing massive amounts of people smashing the red button market, take our shorts basically. So massive shorts. People are smashing the button. We talked about yesterday how we were starting to see people starting to short over long. This is always the typical move. Everyone's longing, the price keeps going down. People are starting to add to shorts now. We're seeing that kind of stack up. It's still about 2 to 1 long to short. However, we are seeing that kind of flip at least a little bit, which is good for potential upside gains. Looking over at Trading Light, we have a pretty interesting little stack above us, a couple thousand, I think, by the looks of it. So yeah, it's a couple thousand. But we did see yesterday that this is most likely just fake bullshit. As this, as soon as we started it got pulled, we saw a continuation of the move up here. Locally looking to retest levels. Got some very small orders kind of hold stuff. So we're really technically looking for a hold here around 54K, even where it is now at 54.5, potentially to see a bounce and a continuation. Once we start losing this structure, this becomes a little less likely to hold. Realistically, you're looking for an upside continuation on low time frames until you start breaking 53K, in which case then you're safe to start targeting like 51.3, 49.8, really doing another low retest of this structure. So we're just remember the higher time frame is technically definitely still down, but some local price action is actually very interesting, especially this kind of gain a level that we're at now locally. So we want to see holds here. If we don't see holds, we're probably looking to 54K. If that doesn't hold, looking potentially at a sweep of 53.2 to start targeting it lower again. Looking at the order flow. So, given the areas that we're in, we're seeing, a lot less volume, obviously, than we saw the previous day. I'll put the 4 hour on, it's a bit cleaner, but massive amounts of longs here that are in place. So here's something that's going to be interesting if we do start clearing some of these lows in the 4 hour, because there is so many longs in place. Could easily break us down. I mean, that's a 6-7% move, massive moves to the downside in case there's a localized failure, which would put all of these local longs out of position and likely to punish them. We saw the punishment now of the bounces from yesterday just because of all the late shorts, all of these guys getting completely blown out of the water, several 100,000 liquidated with almost a 10% bounce move. So again, if we do start losing this kind of local cluster to put these guys back underwater, likely we're going to see some continuation to the downside. So keep an eye on that. But there's still some potential to hold down here at 51K. If we start losing this stuff, it's very simple. If we start losing this low, you need to start looking at 46K and 42K really seriously. Looking over at Trading View to kind of give the idea of what we're looking at today. So we got the bounce move, we got the higher time frame or lower time frame, excuse me, bounce that came back up to levels. We reestablished some support, just broke through everything. This is now done looking locally here for either continuation kind of in this zone here. The daily open at 53.9, 54K, 54.4. This area here is looking interesting for continuation back to the upside. If we do start losing that, then we want to start targeting back at these lows that we put in. The big thing here is, I guess, simply, we're looking for that kind of step off move to have a continuation bounce to the weekly open as shorts are stacking and we see quite a bit of liquidity above that. This is still a great area if you got some of the bounce longs from yesterday to take a little bit of profit. You're still massively in profit. It's when we start losing the daily open, then we start targeting kind of like back down into that into those low structures and potentially a continuation. I would love to see personally just a bounce continuation back up to the weekly. Then we start seeing some lower time frames being quite overbought, some people out of position, and yeah, and then we get probably one last retracement. If we get another retracement here that creates a higher low from this, whatever happens, like that's kind of like the inflection point. If that low holds, we're likely looking at a step off position where the price action will start changing pretty significantly. Whereas, in the last week plus, we saw massive amounts of basically sideways grindy down structure, which really traps a lot of longs. And we want to see the inverse, which is, sideways up grindy price action that really traps a lot of shorts. But we're seeing a little bit of that flip, not quite as much yet. I think needed to go higher, but yeah, keep an eye on for 54.4 to about 54K. This is going to be the local area that you really care about. Otherwise, it looks like lower time frame we have some priority up. Higher time frame is definitely still the downside. So any break of this is just an easy flip short back down the structure. So that's it. Catch you tomorrow.